Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Angry Cast and Fallout Shelter 2023. How y'all doing? We are doing okay. We've been busy, and so that's why I've been doing some voiceover work for these. And I really don't have much that I can add to this, other than this. This is going to be because I haven't, even though I have a voiceover on this video, it's going to be especially great because we actually find, I should say, a quest clue on the Wonders of Technology quest that we're going to be doing, and that will lead us to doing one of the quests that you can only get when you find them in containers on other quests. This one being the Welcome to Paradise one. So sorry, spoiler alert on that, but it'll just be still be interesting to watch all that. But as we go through, just keep in mind that we are at episode 97 of the series, and I didn't expect it to go this long. It's been almost 2 years of episodes. In fact, probably close to 2 years. It would have been 104 episodes, I think would have been 2 years. However, I'm not going to go into 104 episodes. I think we're going to call it at 100. Now, you can see we've got 152 dwellers in the vault. By the end of this episode, we'll have 155. I think I'm going to take and escalate the matter by having a bunch of dwellers, procreate instead of waiting, because every time we have to kick off the radio room, it also attracts death claws, which means more death and destruction. Now, granted, does not bother us in the least. Everybody who's in the top level has all their perks, has the best weapons, has the best outfits, and they're all level 50, so there's nothing they're going to gain by getting pummeled by death claws. Also, in the vault, we have also taken that one layer of storage rooms out above the storage and living quarters, and then the reason I did that was because we found out last time that with even separated by an elevator row, rad roaches can spread. Fire could spread. Technically, I guess mole rats could spread, but mole rats were never going to spawn because we weren't touching any dirt. But now we're doing the trade-off of keeping all items that could spread to nearby rooms from happening, in lieu of letting mole rats just run rampant down in the basement. One of the byproducts that we're going to see from this particular episode is that we get another Mr. Handy, which leaves us with, too many to even count, and we have no place to put them. I could put them into the bottom of the vault, but then that just necessitates me having to solve an outbreak of something in those rooms, and it also costs me money every time one of the Mr. Handys goes down, because they have to deal with multiple issues, either multiple rad roaches, multiple mole rats, or flame spurts. So I've been taking them and just shipping them out into the wasteland to collect 5,000 caps and come back. Yeah, I will eventually have to repair them, but the thing is that out of that 5,000, I net 3,000 caps if I have to repair them, and that's not every single time they go out. They usually lose about half of their health, so I'm not going to care about that much. Going to not worry about that, but we're going to worry about getting to this quest, and I'm going to turn it over to previous me who recorded something, and it's kind of bittersweet at this time of year, being in summer vacation. So take it away, future me. Or, sorry, past me. I'm 48 years old, and taking a vacation while is something I really, really like to do. I tend to not do it because I feel like I don't get anything done for me during that time. And my father was self-employed, was an insurance salesman for over 50 years. He rarely took a vacation. In fact, the man rarely stopped. He would work at the office during the day. He would then come home, and typically he would go on to the next thing, which was either going to the farm that he grew up on to help there, or he went to the social organization he was involved in, or he had a separate role as he was on the municipal authority for our town, or on the weekends he was doing things for that social organization in terms of our high school athletics. They ran the concession stand at the stadiums. So him stopping and taking time was rare. And as he got older, he did it, but it was like an afternoon maybe, or just an hour here. He'd come home, eat lunch, take a quick nap. Or if things got slow in the office, sometimes you would find him napping in his chair at his desk. But for him to take an actual vacation, like consecutive days, that was odd. In fact, the last vacation the man ever took, he was in his 70s, his late 70s. It was 2016, and we went as a family, to Topsail Beach. And it was kind of like pulling teeth to get him there. In fact, he had brought his work laptop with him in order to do work. And about a day into it, he's just closed the lid and said, screw it, I'll just do it when I get back. And that's kind of the problem with the line of thinking that we have is, me especially, is I hate going away for a week, because when I get back, there's all the work that I didn't do, as well as the work that I need to do waiting for me. And that's kind of like with him. And he was self-employed, so he was the man. He had a secretary, pretty much. And maybe at one time he had 2 secretaries helping out because there was so much work to do. But for the most part, it was just him and one other person. And he was the kind of guy that people would call at night or on the weekend, whenever, like they had a problem. And, like say, hey, I just was in an accident, I need to, blah, blah. And he would, go out there with his Polaroid camera, take pictures of the accident, get all that stuff. And by the next day, they were, their claim was filed or whatever. And he did that. He was on call. And that's me, too. I'm on call. And it's not that other people can't do my job. In fact, I've kind of, for better or for worse, I've made it to the point where I am that point person for when something goes wrong, but the ability for anybody else to do that role, if I'm not available, is there. We have a process in place, and it's scary to me, because it's like I'm not really needed, but also I should be able to take time off. And just this past week, I went on vacation, and 15 minutes into me being off of work, there was an issue, and I had to ignore it. I had to let other people do it. I sat there and watched it happen, but I wasn't responsible, and I wasn't going to do anything. And then people were coming at me in our work messaging service that I could still see, because I hadn't turned off my notifications yet for the week. And they were asking, hey, this needs to be done. And I'm like, I'm not looking at that. I'm not answering it. I have a note. I have a message that says I am out of the office. You can see my status is unavailable, offline. The little purple circle says out of the office. And still, I felt like I didn't see any movement on what that person was asking me. So I texted my boss and his boss, who, we are all kind of like a team kind of idea, and said, hey, you guys might want to look at this. They came at me in private messaging, but I have my notifications turned off, so I don't know what's going on. Just to from the sidelines, kind of like push things a little bit. So it's hard for me to let go. And I even caught myself opening up and looking at some email and looking at just to see what the chats were, but not actually respond or engage in them while I was gone, just because it's just I can't detach. And I know how my father felt. And what's sad is that vacation we took together as a family, where he brought his work with him and then finally said, you know what, I'm not going to deal with it. It was sort of a moment of foreshadowing, because that was the trip we found out that he had cancer. He had been complaining of having some pain in his mouth, like an ulcer, and they found out he had stage 3 squamous, which was then into his lymph nodes, and he had to have part of his tongue removed because of that. And there was going to be all this other surgery that didn't happen, and then he went into chemo and radiation, and then he never really recovered. He just kind of like slowly fell down more until he decided he was done. And so he never retired. In fact, he worked until he couldn't, until he had nothing left. And it made me think about this post I saw once on Facebook. Now, I don't know if this is a true thing. It's just a picture with a story attached to it. Who knows? The story and the picture might not be related, but it makes perfect sense, regardless of whether or not it's a fictional or fake post, bad context, whatever, wrong caption to right picture, whatever. It still tells a story. And that story is of this robot, this an art installation at a museum or whatever, that has this robot arm. It sits in the middle of the floor. And it has, on the end of the robot arm, it has this, like, squeegee. And while the arm is in place and is there, it slowly leaks fluid, like hydraulic fluid. And it knows enough about the leaking fluid that it can scrape it with that squeegee back into the center into a vat, which supplies the robot, which then of course leaks out again as it circulates through the hydraulic system. And so as fluid leaks out, it sweeps it back in. Now that's just keeping itself going, and it's it's a thing that it can constantly keep up with. If that's its only job, it's fine. Keeping itself alive is fine. It's okay. But it's also programmed that when it recognizes people in its eye, in with a sensor sight or whatever it is, that it has to perform. It has to do this dance, this happy dance, when it sees people. And at first, it's able to do those happy dances because it's not leaking that much, and then it can just scrape the stuff back into the vat and keep going. But as time goes on and more people expect to see more happy dances, there's more happy dances to be had, it becomes harder for the robot to scrape the hydraulic fluid back to the center while it's performing. And people expect it to do these dances. Like that's a thing. This robot will dance for you. And I don't know if they even tell the people that this robot will dance for you while it's trying to keep itself alive. I mean, I don't know what the specifics are, but if you imagine that you are that robot and you are doing that happy dance for people, performing for people at the same time trying to keep yourself alive, and the more times you have to perform, the less time you have to keep yourself alive by pushing that stuff back into the center, you will slowly die. And you perform less, and people start to wonder, and people think, oh, the robot's not dancing that great. And then the end of the story was that in 2019, it finally couldn't keep up with the amount of fluid, because as the fluid would leak out, it became harder for it to move. The hydraulics, the movement became harder, and it became harder for it to move that liquid back to the center, and so eventually it died. I mean, it just ran out of fluid, and it couldn't move anymore. And I was struck by that, because that's us. That's me. It's my dad. Constantly trying to perform and do things for other people who expect things of us. And slowly and surely, losing the ability to keep ourselves alive, either through rest, through self-care, through anything, through health care. I'm too sick, but I have to go to work. I have a deadline. I need sleep, but I have to get this done. And I don't think we really take into account how much we need to do that life-saving act of scraping the fluid back to our center. Because we're too busy trying to do something that people expect of us. And maybe they don't see what it's doing to us. Maybe they don't care. And oftentimes when we do profess to somebody that we have a problem, that we need to do something, that I need to take care of myself, I need to take a day off, and then people look at us like, well, how could you be so selfish? You have needs, but we have, needs too, and how, you could take another day off, or you'll have the weekend, or blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I do the weekend is when I do other things for me, for my family. So I don't want to be the robot. I want to go on vacation, and I want to enjoy my vacation. I need to start looking at the notifications on my phone. I need to just maybe just not even take it. And this is why I kind of wish we lived in a world where, and I understand why we don't, But it used to be, way back in the day, that if you were a person who had an on-call role, or you had to be involved in something, you had a second device. You had a work phone. You didn't have just your own phone. You had a work phone. Now, at some point in the process of saving money, companies figured it was bring your own device. We can partition your phone so that your stuff and our stuff won't interact with each other. So there's no chance of losing, security on data. And you can, we can save money by not buying you an extra device and having a plan and all that other stuff. So I understood the metrics that were looked at and said, we could implement this idea of bring your own device. But at the same time, it's hard for us as humans to not look at something just because we're told not to. It's like, it's always there, but just don't look at it. Just train yourself to not look at it. Where we should, if we're going to have this idea of bringing your own device is better for the company and it's better for us and everything else, then fine. Then we program into the system that every time I decide to take a week off, I lose that access and I can't see those things. I am shut down from that. I cannot look. I am in a bubble. Like I am in Apollo 13. I'm Ken Mattingly. I'm just like deciding to go to bed instead of watching the launch. So I missed the entire thing where Apollo 13, ends up in distress. Now, I guess that's a probably bad example because Ken Mattingly helped save them and he was supposed to be on there. And so, yeah, then his ability to be reached when he shouldn't have been reached helped out. But at the same time, he was not around, he shouldn't have been involved. So yeah, bad analogy. But anyways, we should do better. We should do better as humans to guard against that loss of hydraulic fluid and stop asking people to perform so much. Let's strike a healthy balance. We used to be able to do this, or we just didn't care. There was always that talk of you just need to go to work and stop complaining and we all did this. Yeah, just because you did it doesn't mean it was better. Just because somebody did something, hey, guess what? Just because we thought the world was flat doesn't mean we shouldn't try and embrace the fact that it actually is round. Like, new empirical evidence has shown us that this is wrong. We should embrace change and fix it, not be just because you didn't die doing it. We drove for how long without seatbelts? But guess what? Seatbelts helped. So, I don't know. I just don't want to be the robot. I don't want to die. I want to go on vacation. I want to be able to do the happy dances. But I want to be able to do the happy dances while not dying at the same time. Maybe I'm just different. I don't know. Hey, thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Take a vacation. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.